What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And shout out to Rico at Street Scores, holding it down, doing a great job. And I'm inspired by you. I appreciate you. Um, this is Chike Kamara, and I am a super Washington Commanders fan, born and raised in D.C., not Maryland, not Virginia, born and raised in D.C., a child of the 70s and 80s, so I definitely remember the heyday of the command of the Redskins. And for a few years there, I was like, you know what, I give up on this team. And it was due to how the owner managed the team. But now I'm back and strong, and I'm really excited about this team. And so I have a couple questions. First of all, like and subscribe. Help me to get to 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers. Just subscribe. I promise that I will not inundate you with whack videos for sure. I will give my opinion and you can agree or not agree. But definitely like, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and leave a comment if you want to continue this discourse. I'm really interested in your opinion, especially on the topic that I'm going to discuss right now, real quick. So, there was an article in on Commander's Wire via the USA Today, and it said that the Washington Commanders, excuse me, are expected to contend for the Super Bowl in 2025. And at first I was like, duh, like they made the NFC Championship game. Of course they're expected to contend. They should be. But at the same time, it got me thinking, well, wait a minute. What do they need to do to make sure that they do contend? Like, could they stay the same generally? Like, could they generally stay the same team and contend even for the playoffs next year? Now you can say, okay, we have a quarterback that is that special that he could get us to the playoffs. Yeah, you can say that, but all things being the same, could we keep the status quo, keep the team sort of like it is now, and even contend for the playoffs, even have a winning record? I mean, they are well coached, and they will have a second year in the system, both defensively and offensively. So yeah, that's it's possible. But then I thought about, you know what, their schedule is going to be much tougher next year. So that's why I have this graphic up here of who they play home and away next year. And once you see the teams that they're playing next year, you know that they're going to have to step their game up. They cannot walk into next year with the status quo, like the team very similar to how it is now, and then adding some key good veterans and expect to play as well as they did this year. I think that they probably need to upgrade in the speed department, in the size department, and yeah, in those departments, in the instincts department, of course, because it's one thing to have skill and to be good at your job and to work hard. But at the end of the day, like I said in my previous video, you need guys that have out of this world instincts because the when the stuff hits the fan, at least you know that this guy, this instinctive guy, can get out of trouble and navigate through that trouble and still find ways to make plays. Okay, and we need guys that are durable for sure. Like I said, when Brian Robinson Jr. was down, when Austin Eckler was down, yeah, the Commanders won some games, but it made the offense look inconsistent at times, and you're sort of battling and up, you're sort of going uphill um, when you have to constantly have to contend with, this player is out, next man up mentality. Yeah, it's nice to say. It sounds cool. It sounds like, you're ready for battle and you're a together unit, and that's cool. That's true. It is next man up mentality. But at the same time, you want to have consistency. So I don't know. That's just my thought on it. But what are your thoughts on it? Like, leave a comment and let's discuss. All right, can they sort of stand pat with the team that they have right now do just as well next year based on the schedule we're looking at on the screen? That's my question. And I don't even know if they make the playoffs next year. Now, again, you have a quarterback that is damn near elite, if not elite. And so there's always a chance. But you don't want to overwork him. He could get injured. Remember, he led the team, the entire team, in rushing. And he led the team in rushing for several games. So you don't want, and all of the playoffs he did. So you don't want to put him in that position and sort of burn him out and expect for him to make miraculous plays and do all that kind of stuff. So I say, as is now, they are not Super Bowl contenders. I'm not sure if they're a playoff team. They're borderline. It's almost like the Houston situation. Although Houston did upgrade in some areas, bring in people like Daniil Hunter to shore up their defense. And they bought in Diggs, but he got hurt, unfortunately. But and they made the playoffs again. But how far did they get? Now you might say the Chiefs. I mean, they were robbed because of the officiating for the Chiefs. But at the end of the day, you know, they still need probably a couple more pieces on the Texans team. And so that should be sort of an example for the Commanders to use as it relates to how to approach having such a successful season. It's hard to get to the NFC Championship game, really hard. I was tired almost. I'm like, man, how long can this keep going? They just pulling out wins. But to get to the promised land, the Super Bowl, you're going to need a little bit more. So the question is, how do you do that? And I have said this before in my previous videos, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But I'm just going to say you need an elite person, an elite player, a dominant player on both sides of the ball, at least one on both sides of the ball. If you think about the Chiefs, Chris Jones, dominant. Pat Mahomes, dominant. Although he took a little bit of a step back this year, but damn, they was like what, 14 and 15 and 2, something like that. I mean, you think about the Eagles, Saquon Barkley, dominant. Um, Damn, what's the defensive tackle for the Eagles? Dominant. I should know his name because cause he's definitely dominant, but it'll pop in my mind. So yeah, and that's what makes it so amazing that the Commanders got to the NFC Championship game with only one dominant guy, and that was Jaden Daniels on offense. At times he was downright dominant. He definitely was a problem. You need guys that are a problem. And if you think about the Detroit Lions, they have 2 to 3 problem guys on offense, but they were not necessarily dominant on defense. They didn't have any problems on defense. That makes you beatable. Let's see who else they play. Tampa Bay. Tampa has no dominant players on either side of the ball. They have very good players. They have players that might even be considered Pro Bowlers and All Pros or whatever. Well, maybe not All Pros, but they don't have a problem on offense or defense. Look at this schedule. The, some of the teams they have to play, like the Chiefs. Well, I'm thinking, I'm like looking at them, I'm like, wait a minute, they don't have too many teams they have to play that have dominant or problem guys on both sides of the ball. They are good teams. They are well coached teams. But now that I think about it, um, they don't have to play teams that are. It's still a tough schedule because they have teams that are playoffs teams. You have to have at least one guy on the offense or defense to even be considered a good team. Like, really. But in order for the Commanders to do what they need to do to get to the Super Bowl, they're going to need to find somebody dominant on defense, somebody that is a problem on defense. Because when you have somebody that's a problem, then it opens up everything else, and they can make a play at critical junctures in games or make or stretch of games that can help them to win some of these tougher games. See what I'm saying? So that's why somebody like Miles Garrett is so important because not only can Miles Garrett get after the quarterback and give you 15, 16, 17, 18 sacks, but he can stop the run. Like he is a problem. It's tough to block him. Like if you get Miles Garrett, you are a playoff team if you're the Commanders for sure. And you're borderline getting back to the NFC Championship game. It's almost guaranteed. Okay? Now, that's why I said in a previous video that the draft is so important this year. There are guys that the Commanders could pick up that can make a huge difference on this team. And they're not even considered top 10 or top or first round talent, but they have speed or they have size. They dominated in college, but for whatever reason, they're just not considered first rounders. But there are plenty second, third, fourth rounders that can help your team, that can help you be, that can be a problem for other teams. And they don't have to necessarily be dominant, but they can be problems. Think about the Lions. You know what I'm saying? Jameson Williams is a problem with his speed. He's not necessarily dominant. He doesn't get the ball that much, but he's a problem. He's a matchup nightmare. You know what I'm saying? And then you got an accurate quarterback who is not a problem, but you got a running back. You got two running backs that are a problem and one that is dominant. Jameer Gibbs is dominant. So you see what I'm saying? So that's what the Commanders need to do. Like, and I said that before. And again, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but my point is one of the main reasons I'm doing this video is because a lot of people think, okay, you made the championship game, you made the playoffs, you should be able to do it again with your current team. It's not like that. You can't look at the team in a vacuum and think, oh, they're just going to get back because they have an elite quarterback and XYZ. I mean, remember, after you have sort of a playoff run, you're going to have a tougher schedule the next season. That's just how it works. I mean, think about 2012 when the Redskins with RG3, they got hot and they got into the playoffs, and they should have won their playoff game against the against the Seahawks. But he got hurt. They were up 14-0, and then they lost. And so the next year their schedule was much tougher, and it wasn't so easy. And they didn't upgrade enough in the talent area, and they took a big step back. Like, what dominant player did they have on defense or even offense? Because RG3 was coming off an injury, so it's not like he was dominant. What player did they have that was a problem? So they took a big step back. So that's what's going to happen if they stand pat. If they bring in another 1 year veteran that's really good, and sign them to a 1 year deal, maybe even a 2 year deal, you can bring in some really good guys, but some really good players, but that doesn't mean that they're a problem or dominant. You need to find those guys. That's why, again, somebody like Miles Garrett makes a big difference. That's where the elite teams become elite. And again, look at the Chiefs. They have Chris Jones dominant. On the other side, their quarterback dominant. So that's how you start getting into the consistently being in the playoffs and going far. It's really clear what they need to do. And I'm really curious to see what Adam Peters and the Commanders do. Like, I expect Adam Peters to be aggressive because he seems progressive. You know what I'm saying? It seems like he would know that they need that guy. But if they come out here and sign some good veterans, very good veterans that do their job, that are good, that are even Pro Bowlers, but if they're not a problem, if they don't have a dominant guy, it's going to be hard for them to get over the hump, in my opinion. I mean, think about it. They got to play the Eagles twice next year. The Eagles aren't going anywhere. They're still going to have those key talented players they have. The Cowboys are always tough, as we saw this year. And the Cowboys seem to have Jaden Daniels' number a little bit because they have fast linebackers. They have good DBs. The Giants are always tough. The division is always tough. I mean, like I said, and like everybody says, they haven't had a consecutive winner in years. I don't know if maybe the Eagles were the first consecutive winner, division winner in 10 plus years, something like that. So, I mean, look, at home, they have the Bears, who I expect to be improved offensively. You know, they have Ben Johnson, who is definitely a whiz at in offensive scheme. Like, they should be much better offensively for sure. And they already had a pretty good defense. They did not have a defense that sucked. You know, the Lions, I expect them to be good. They need to shore up their defense a little bit because that defense was like a sieve. The Broncos had one of the top 10 defenses, and Bo Nix is going to be in his second year in the system. And we know that Sean Payton is a good play caller. And so that's going to be a tough game. And the Seahawks, they played tough. They were a borderline playoff team. So let me see, 4 of their 7 home games. Wait a minute, they only got 7 home games and 9. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry, that's 8. So they have 8 home games and 9 away games, probably because they were one of the top teams in their division, so they have to play more away games. So this is a tougher schedule for sure. And so probably one of those away games to me is telling me that they might play the Chargers internationally, because I think the Chargers will get a home game internationally. So it will be less of an away game than. So anyway, so at home they got some tough games, and then on the road they definitely got some tough games. Like, you have to go to Philly, you have to go to at the Giants is always tough. Although this year, Jaden Daniels carved them up. Green Bay, you gotta go to Green Bay and to the Chiefs, to Miami, to the Falcons, to the Vikings. Falcons, borderline playoff team. Dolphins, when Tua was healthy, if he would have been healthy the whole year, probably at least a borderline playoff team. The Vikings, playoff team, won 14, 15 games, something like that. Chargers, playoff team. Kansas City, best record in the league. Green Bay, playoff team. Eagle, we know what happened with them. So, like, that's a tougher schedule. So, Adam Peters needs to find some players, some pieces that will be a problem on both sides of the ball. Like, if you add that with what you have, then yeah, you're cooking with fish grease for sure. And I think he knows that. But I would be disappointed if they do what they did last year. Like they just bring in some key veterans, some key young guys, some free agents that are good, maybe even very good. But you need to get a couple guys that are a problem, even if you get them in the draft. You know what I'm saying? So, and for me, a problem would be somebody that has breakaway speed. That is a problem. Okay. Another problem is somebody that is like 6'6", 340 with dancing bare feet that can penetrate through the offensive line and get into the backfield. That's a problem. There are a lot of defensive tackles in the draft this year. Um, Another problem is a tight end that plays like a wide receiver, like Colston Loveland or somebody like that. Like Brock Bowers. I remember when I saw Brock Bowers, sorry, um, tongue twisted there. When I saw Brock Bowers tape last year before he came out at Georgia, I was like, man, this guy is a problem. And what did he do? He set tight end records and almost set, he might have set the rookie receiving record for receptions in a year, in a season. So you need problems like that. And there are a couple tight ends out there that run routes like a wide receiver that are good route runners, but also that can block, like Colston Loveland of Michigan. You know what I'm saying? You want a problem, somebody that can fake somebody out in a phone booth. And I said this before, and I'm not going to keep beating the dead horse. I said it in one of my previous videos. And maybe it's unwise for me to keep harping on it, but every time I look at any new news story about the Commanders and what they could do and what they're interested in, I just keep pointing to the same thing. Get some problem players. And it's not as hard as you think. It's not as hard as you think. Like, you have to know first what a problem is. Have to know what a problem is, and then you can go after that. But I feel encouraged. I feel real encouraged because the type of people they bought in from the draft last year had certain skills that were good, pretty good. But to me, it wasn't good enough because you always need to be looking for guys that are a problem in some way. I'm glad Sandra still is on the team. That was a good pick. I thought that Johnny Newton was going to be a problem, and he probably still will be. And I said this about somebody on I said this to somebody on Twitter about Johnny Newton. They said he's going to be a bust. And I was thinking, already? And you know what I tweeted back at them? I said, if Johnny Newton reaches out to Warren Sapp, who always talks about the fact that he has guys calling him all the time and asking him to work with them over the summer, and he says, cool, come on down to Florida. I got you. I even got somewhere for you to stay. He said they never called back. The guy had the Colorado defense jump up so many more spots from how much they sucked defensively the prior year. He's a coach on Colorado right now. He's a good coach. He would teach him some techniques that will help him to become more dominant. So I said, Johnny Newton, get with Warren Sapp, and you will come back. He will come back with all pro potential. Because the Johnny Newton I saw in college, he has off the charts instincts. He used to think ahead of the linemen before they even knew what they were going to do. And quite frequently, he was able to use his small, squat, but chunky body to get into the backfield. He was chasing down quarterbacks that were athletic quarterbacks, that were running quarterbacks. So I don't know if it's because of his injury that kind of slowed him down. So we'll see. But it would be cool if he can get with somebody like that, an OG. And he seems like the type of person that will reach out to Warren Sapp too. And I wish I had his Twitter handle. I wish I could reach out to him, because I would be like, man, Warren Sapp would like to work with you. He will help you, because they're the same size. Warren Sapp was about the same size. 6 foot, 6'1", 3 something. And Warren Sapp was so quick off the ball. So anyway, Johnny Newton has the potential. He could be a problem. And if you put somebody next to him that is also a problem, then I bet you Johnny Newton will take off. You know what I'm saying? So that was a good pickup. And then the other guys they drafted were guys that were good filler pieces. You know what I'm saying? Guys that could be really good pros once they get experience. But now they need to get some problems. They got some dogs last year. They got some really good players last year. They had an A+ draft. You know what I'm saying? I still trust and believe in Ben Sinnott, for real. Like, he was another one of those guys that was a straight dog. Was he a problem? Not necessarily. But he had a certain specific skill, a certain specific trait. Because I don't like to say, okay, this guy has a specific skill, this guy is skilled in this way. Almost everybody in the NFL is skilled, especially if they made the team. They're skilled on some level. But he has a trait of breaking tackles and being tough to bring down. So you got to put him in position to do that. But apparently, according to what I've heard in interviews, he probably still has a ways to go to just kind of learning the offense and learning how the NFL works. And then he can take that leap. Then he could catch balls and use his strength and his tackle breaking ability. He has to want to block. He has to learn to become a better blocker, a more well-rounded tight end. Can he do that? How hard can he work? I mean, if you think about it, Ben Sinnott had to walk on at Kansas State. He was a hockey player, and he walked on at Kansas State. So, maybe he has a lot more to learn. But at the end of the day, just to wrap this up, if you're going to get back to that level, you're going to have to change and add something that will help you to get back to that level, because the schedule is not going to be any easier. It's going to be tougher. You're going to be playing more elite players and more elite defenses next year. So you need to have some guys. And again, toughness travels, problems travel. And what I mean by that is you can go to an opponent and they could have a difficult place to play, but they can't defend against toughness. They can't defend against problems. The crowd can't take the problem out of the game. The crowd can't take the toughness out of the player. So that's a hell of a quote by, I heard Ed Cooley say that, and I was like, damn, that's true. He was like, toughness travels, good defense travels. So no matter where you go, you can go into wherever Duke plays, you can go to Duke and play. And if you have that toughness and that defense, you got a chance to make an upset because it travels well. You know what I'm saying? So with the Commanders, you need to upgrade that defense, find some problems. And like I said, speed is a problem. Jamison Williams with the Lions, a problem. His speed is a problem. He's not dominant. Again, he's not dominant, but he's a problem. His speed is a problem. Jameer Gibbs is dominant. Bucky Irving is a problem. He's not dominant, but he's a problem. His elusiveness and speed is a problem. So that's what you need. And that's how you got to look at it. Like if you look at it in a different way, then, maybe you're not as focused as you should be on that. But that's my opinion. So I say, yeah, they're contenders to get to the Super Bowl, but that comes with an asterisk for me. What do you think? Like, do you think if they went into next year with a similar approach, with similar type players, could they get back to the NFC Championship game? I mean, is this a question of they have super talent, they have problems, but they just need a little bit more seasoning and experience? That's one way you could look at it if that was true, but I don't see that. I don't see it being that. It's not like they have guys waiting in the wings that could be an absolute stud. Not that I can see. Maybe somebody like a Johnny Newton, but that's not guaranteed because he's on the smallish side. He's like 6'3" and something, maybe. So, what do you guys think? Leave a comment. And that's all I got for today. And appreciate it. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Get me to 100 subscribers. Get me to 200 subscribers. And I really appreciate it. HTTC.